Get ready to tune into stories of average men striving for greatness to become the leaders that are needed in their homes, in their career, and their communities. This is the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast.
Hey, everybody, on this episode, I have with me right now, live, well, not live to you, but I have with me right now, Adam Lane. Lane. Boy, I probably don't need to use both your names, right, Adam? Adam owns Oak Performance, which is a performance studio or gym for athletes, student athletes. And then he owns Oak Strength, which is for the every person. And if you've heard this name before, it's because I was interviewing with Adam for his podcast just this week, I believe, maybe last week. Yeah. And I liked it so much. I'm like, hey, send it to my team. Let's make this a brotherhood conversation. Cause I think it was an opportunity to learn, for you guys to learn a little bit more about me. But Adam and I had a lot to talk about in doing hard things. And then we also wanted to kind of broach in on some things a little more into the parental world. So we wanted to have a little more time on that. So you're welcome. This is going to be awesome. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Scott, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So I did your little bio. What's your podcast name?
So we have two. The adult one is the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. Again, aimed towards making average people awesome. And then the athlete one is Oak Performance Radio.
Right on. Yeah, you're a busy guy. Doing
too many podcasts.
And you guys, you have to just go and follow. I think it's probably Oak Strength on Facebook, because they're doing some really cool. Now I put the pressure on. He's done some really cool, fun videos to watch. I saw them both last night. I'm like, holy cow, this is hilarious stuff. So yeah, that's my intro to you, Adam. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so the listenership can get a sense of who you are, man.
Yeah. Married, 2 kids, 9-year-old boy and 6-year-old boy. And my wife's a teacher. I'm originally a teacher, taught 7th grade math for 14 years. We've been running the gym for a little over 9 now. Like Scott, like you said, we have the Oak Performance, which is the youth side of things, and the Oak Strength, which is the adult side of things. The youth side of things it's funny because it's almost, we separate them because people get confused because they think it's all together, but we train the very average, normal adult, which I put myself in that category. But then we train some very, very high-end youth athletes using some pretty cool high-end Sparta Science training, force plate technology, along with some college athletes and then professional athletes that kind of then trickle in because of that. So, yeah,
I want to stop you because like you do these great posts. I follow you. I follow you on the gram and on the Facebook, on the book face, whatever you want to call it. But like I see all these posts, and I actually have other performance gym owners follow you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Or maybe I'm sorry, because I'm like, look, you in my business, I do some editing. We have some editing sources, and anyway, and I'm like, you need to do better content. You need to really promote what's going on. Go follow Adam at Oak Performance, because he's producing like all these division athletes going on to schools, getting rides, and he posts that and he shows, this is what we're producing. These are the types of people. And I'm like, that sells. It's important. So you might have, 10 or 15 other gym owners following you, just watching what you do.
Well, and I don't know, we try to separate ourselves out with stuff. I mean, with kids are so unique with how they ebb and flow. I mean, they could be jumping out of the gym one day and then the next day be crawling into the gym. So it's so funny how they are. We are lucky enough we have partnered with a volleyball club that is very competitive, but like smart competitive. Like they understand the whole athlete picture. And so that partnership has allowed us to, one, get on with the Sparta Science piece and be able to afford, that type of technology. But then again, create this partnership where, we're able to celebrate these athletes because they we have a recruiting director that works with this volleyball club that's in charge of like establishing the relationship between our athletes and these other coaches, these college coaches and whatnot, and make sure that the kid gets placed at the right place that works for them, that has their major, that is, as close or as far away from home as they want to be, because the goal is to be there and play and enjoy college experience for all 4 years. So awesome. It's been a lot of fun, and the Sparta piece really allows us to like, and this is what you see in the social media piece, but like prove that what we're doing is actually, working as opposed to just warm fuzzies. And, I think they're getting faster on the field. They look faster. Like, I don't know. The eye test is, here or there. So we tried.
Yeah. I think that technology is really cool. I was on a quest for my son to get speed and agility training over the summer. And as someone who's been in the fitness industry for a long time, you go to all these and you're like, no, not doing that. Nope, not doing that. Nope. And finally had to ask another gym owner, like if your son if you're trying to get him better, who would you send? And then did the whole networking thing and got a phenomenal person where we actually saw ridiculously great results. But I still love the science of what you do. It's so cool. And it's not like I do that because my son's going to be a Division I athlete or anything. It's just so he can enjoy. Yeah, that was a weakness. He knew it, but it's just so he can enjoy the years that he is going to be in, athletics, school athletics, enjoy them more. And it's so funny. I have this funny story. So this has to do with being a parent and kids. So the first day of training, his coach goes, look, I'm going to teach you how to run about 80% of what the work you're doing now, but you're going to have massive speed increase. And he's like, okay. He's like, so you're going to work way less and you're going to go way faster. But I promise you one thing, kids are going to make fun of you. And he said, you just got to get over it. So sure enough, my son's doing a summer, like weekly workout camp, and he goes, and this is a lesson. Like, you just got to prepare your kids for things. Mm-hmm. You got to help them have the mental fortitude. Yeah. So he goes and he's like, I got made fun of all day. Because like when my son runs now, it's like it looks great to me, but it's not the sloppy, what everybody else is doing. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's never been the fastest. So he got made fun of, and I actually made him name after the kids because I really, I want to substantiate that this is really happening. And exactly what did they say? Because you know how kids, yeah, it's horrible. They were making fun of me, and it's like one kid said, "Oh, well, that's interesting," or whatever. So it was substantiated. I'm like, okay, like just trust your coach. Mm-hmm. Next day, they go back and they do these, I think 40/40s or something, and he came home. He's like, he told my wife and I, he's like, every single kid that had a comment yesterday, I beat. I said, would those be the kids that you could beat before? And he's like, no. I'm like, I'm glad you listened to your coach. So that was really fun. That was just an anecdotal story about how important the right training is and how important mindset is. So how do you guys work with youth mindset as well? Like,
oh, Scott, I'm so bad at that. So here's what I've noticed in 9 years. Cause again, when my wife and I met teaching, we coached cross country, basketball, and track and field. The biggest compliment, and then obviously into owning this gym, the biggest compliment, I guess not biggest, the most consistent compliment that we get is, a parent will come up and be like, oh, you made Tori so much more. And then you fill in the blank. And I have a bunch of words that I would fill in the blank with: strong, explosive, powerful, And the word they use is confident. That's how much more confident they are. I'm like, but that wasn't my goal exactly. I was looking for, power, speed, and, the whole piece there, look at them on the track, or look at them on the court or whatever. So it's funny how that's, the strength piece, the whatever, just instills this confidence. I'll give Sparta Science more credit that when we actually, because it's hard to measure, like weight on the bar doesn't necessarily mean performance on the field. And so, to actually have the force plate and be able to measure how athletes create, transfer and apply force, and we can see that this movement signature is improving and getting more balanced and more healthy, and they're jumping higher, which means they're going to run faster, they're going to cut quicker. That's where they get really excited, and so you can see that improvement from the physical side. But then that's where I think it hits them mentally in the way of, hey, now this confidence piece is really, really good. I am not good at having kumbaya moments with athletes, and it's not my cup of tea. I think the sport coach themselves should actually handle that more than
they don't. I'm going to just tell you, most do not. They do not. It's more of, I won't even get into it. I'm probably going to upset somebody, but they suck. They suck. Typically, they suck. There's some of them that are great at it, but it really, when the rubber hits the road, I have 18 kids out there on the sidelines or whatever. This one's going to produce. I don't care what you say. This one's going in. There's no confidence building. There's no, it's just win and then yell at them. I mean, it's just so many bad practices out there, but
yeah,
when you have a way, and this isn't, we didn't design this to be a sports performance conversation, but when you have them in a way where they actually have scientific or validatable data showing them this is where you were and this is where you are, that's pretty big, and that is going to boost the confidence. So, whatever you said, you suck at it, but the results, say differently.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing that keeps kids coming back. On our podcast, we had Phil Wagner, who's the CEO of Sparta. Again, not to keep plugging Sparta, but it's funny. So I've always been very open to, like, I think kids should play lots of sports. They should do it like we did back in the day. You have a 2 or 3 month season. You take a couple of weeks off, and you have a different 2 or 3 month season. You get 4 sports in a year. It's fantastic. Versus there's so much of this club stuff and travel stuff, right, and et cetera, et cetera. And he totally agreed. His issue is that you see the good coaches at the higher levels of the club thing and stuff like that. So it's like a catch-22. You want your kids doing a bunch of other things, but if you have, kind of like you said, these dad coaches that are still running with, what they got in the early 90s in the way of, if I did this, I sat the bench and did it. Well, I don't know. Could you not do that? And could you actually teach them and help them and coach them, so it's kind of that catch-22 between, I think finding good coaches for my kids specifically we've been very blessed with that. We've gotten good people, but it's a challenge because you don't want that. It's funny how one coach can totally,
make or break.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because they're kids. Oh, yeah.
So agreed. So you have 2 boys.
I do.
Here you are. You're running a facility. What I find so unique about you, and probably why I've said this before, why you and I connect so well, is we both taught middle school for so many years. Our brains are so screwed up.
So messed up.
You did 13 years?
14.
I did 13 years. You're 1 year senior to me, or I was 1 year smarter than you and got out.
That's probably what it was. You gave up earlier.
Okay. Well,
which is good, Scott. That's, Jeez.
So I really wanted to kind of dive into something that is probably going to cause a little bit of a riff. I don't really care because as a public school educator for so many years, and my wife grew up both her parents were retired teachers, 30 plus years in their districts and where they were working, great teachers. I'm struggling with public education. And what I think is so unique about you is you come from public education. Your wife is in public education, yet last year you said enough of that.
Yeah.
So
pretty spot on.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about, I don't really want to get into the political reasons or whether we can talk about that. It's fine. But I'm more interested in if there's somebody listening, it's the hows. I mean, it's the how and the why, and then what you've seen happen. And you even told me, I think you said you're just bad at it, or you weren't sure about how it was going. I mean, this was pretty much your role, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, so it ended up being, we like our little school system that we're a part of. It feeds into a much larger high school, which is something that Heather and I haven't quite figured out yet. But the elementary schools we've been pleased with. At the beginning of last year, we didn't. When we're in the state of Illinois, which is different than Texas.
Yeah,
we'll just say that, and we just didn't think that they would be knowing what a dumpster fire the end of 2020 was for public school. The end of the school year, I should say, when COVID was first kind of came down. It wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable. The teachers did the best job that they could, and I really appreciated that. But what was a second grader, whatever he is, 8 at the time, was this is terrible. This is burned in my skull. Was supposed to. There was some sharing day where they were supposed to share about whatever they did over the weekend, and so like he had this all prepared, but I don't remember what we did. We went kayaking or something like that, and he was going to say, hey, we went to the Sugar River and we did this and did that. He was so excited, and just as he started to speak, our internet cut out, and so like he's talking, everybody's frozen. It kicks back. 3 seconds later, the way all internet does, that we have, and his teacher's like, "Oh, Reed, we couldn't hear you. Could you say that again?" So then he goes to talk again, freezes up again, and he says it, freezes up. I'm sorry, Reed. One more time? Could you tries again? Anyway, long story short, doesn't get through. He gets more and more frustrated and like is driven to tears because like he can't communicate with like the rest of his class. He loved his class. He loved his teachers. His teachers have been fantastic. And again, one more thing that we've been really, really blessed with. That was just so frustrating. Like this is so dumb. Like my 8-year-old can't communicate with friends, and I don't know. There we are. So then when I guess the fall hit, and summer before fall, we're trying to figure out what we want to do. We didn't think they'd be in school all year. We thought like, hey, something COVID would spike, and hey, the whole school is staying at home, which some districts ended up doing. Oddly enough, ours did not. So they were actually in school all year. So yeah, Heather and I made the call to homeschool, and it went really well. She's the planner, so she takes a good chunk of time on her weekends in which to plan for both kids. Lesson plans, because she is a planner and she's very good at planning. And then literally I just follow what she says. And I'm, not the smartest guy in the world, but I can follow what will be 4th grade and 1st grade curriculum, pretty well. And it works out really well where I teach them in the morning from, I don't know, whenever they get out of bed, and sleep is good, and they still wake up earlier than they should. But, from about 8 o'clock to 11, give or take, our 4th grader goes a little longer. Our 1st grader will definitely go shorter. And it went pretty well last year. And I'm just amazed with how we just chipped away, day after day after day. And didn't waste time the way we used to in public school. And again, a former math teacher, but we did like literally a math lesson a day. Nothing insane. We didn't pack in 3 or 4 lessons, blah, blah, but both kids got through like a year and a half of math.
Right.
Which is funny because when you don't take out all the other extra days for testing this and maps testing this and state testing here, and today is fun popcorn day because it's a Friday, and oh my gosh, I'm too tired to teach, or hey, it's Renaissance movie day or whatever it might be. It's amazing how much stuff you can get through. So we got through quite a bit of material, and then just relating to my wife, what she was able to get through with her 7th graders last year was a little more than half of what she's used to. So she's sending kids ahead that did a whole lot less than the kids before. And I feel really confident that our kids got more than they would normally get. So we're going to try it another year and see how it goes, and just kind of treat it as a year by year thing. I am a little frustrated with public education and some of the other things that are going down. And it's kind of a weird, sad, frustrating time for that. But I don't know, we're going to kind of figure this out and then figure out what we want to do as we hit middle school and high school. And
there's so many emotions that run through my brain. One is I always told people that my kids would always be in public education. And I had several very strong reasons. Yep. Number one was the non-socialization of kids through homeschooling. I think you're in a unique position where your business, you get to expose them to a lot of people, but there's so many tools now. Yeah. So I want to debunk that myth, because there's so many social tools right now. There's so many co-ops. There's so many, homeschool based or self-learning based, sporting things. I mean, it's just crazy. It's awesome now. So that was number one. Number two was,
which I don't know if that's a myth, Scott. I'll be honest with you. I've met some of the other homeschoolers.
Oh, I have too.
I'd love them. Anybody listening to homeschoolers,
I think it's important for people to homeschool, know, like, hey, look, some of your kids are malaligned socially. Yeah. And so, like, why is that? And how can that be changed? My son and I did a thing called Man Up, and boy, 3/4 of the boys, it's for ninth graders, kind of this like entry to manhood thing. It was learn how to change a tire, all these really cool things that we did together through the church. And he loved it, but it was really hard to connect. 3/4 of those boys were all homeschooled, and they were just freaking weird.
Yeah.
And they would say stupid ass stuff. They're just like, just shut up. Like, this world exists outside of you. And that was really how they were. And so, I mean, that was, I'm like, hey, look, parents, if you're homeschooling, like, do some appropriate social training, because it's just, you have to be the one that says, that's not how you talk to people, or your world exists of more people than just you. And you're not talking through a computer screen, all these little things, right? So that's another one. The other one was, I had a bunch of friends that grew up in Christian schools, and it was like, hey, public education's teaching them things I don't want them to learn, so we're going to put them over here. Well, guess what happened? And I'm not kidding you. I had a really big friend network of kids in Christian school in where I came from. Huge network. One of them was my roommate in college. And man, as soon as he was let off the leash, it was balls to the wall, partying and doing everything he wasn't allowed to do. So let me run down the list of things I can think of some of those kids. Stripper, professional stripper, like prostitution, drugs, I mean, the list goes on. Jail of these kids. And so I'm like, I'm putting my kids in public education because here's why. I want them to expose to all the stuff I don't agree with, because then I can talk to them while their minds are still malleable. I can still have conversations with them about, okay, this happened. That's the worldview. That's their view. Here's what we believe. And I feel like that's given a lot of experience, or a lot of opportunity to talk. This year, if my boys weren't so old and they went back to mask mandates, I would have pulled them. Yeah. But my wife's like, no, they're too old. They're too ingrained. I mean, I got a senior. Can you imagine? And an 8th grader. And she's like, socially, they just need it. But I'll tell you, last year, it was depressing. Teachers were depressed. Teachers were doing really stupid stuff, because I don't know about here, but they had to do all these code things. If a student wasn't there, they had to figure out why they weren't there. Were they there because of quarantine? Were they there because they were skipping? Were there? Then they had like 4 different role things. Then they had to fill out different reports for each one. I'm like, by the time they had to fill out all the stuff they had to fill out, there was no teaching going on. And it was plexiglass things and masks, and you just don't see a face. So for me, it was like, this is it, done. I don't care. They're not going to be like in this faceless society. Yeah. That was how I felt about it. Social development for kids is so incredibly important. There's scientific reports that literally it is more unhealthy to not see somebody's face. This is pre-COVID, to see somebody's face and have face-to-face interaction with them. That is more unhealthy to not have that than to smoking 2 packs a day of cigarettes. Like, literally the physical effects of that are so incredibly bad. So that was my whole thing. I'm like, not sending my kids back to a, all you see is the eyes of everybody type of deal, which is just weird because you can't see emotion very well. Yeah. So I just went on a rant.
Oh, no, that was good.
Not political. It's social developmental for kids. That's all I care about.
Yeah. And Scott, I think there's something weird with, and I'd love to talk to Brian McKenzie on it, because he's gotten big into like the breath work piece. Do you know who I'm talking about? The former CrossFit endurance guy, and I forgot his.
I'm huge into breath work. I love that stuff. So,
so to be able to, like, we're already like walking on eggshells to begin with. We're probably, the average person is probably not, getting necessary vitamins and micronutrients and eating as well as they should. They're probably not moving as well as they should. Now we say lockdown, don't move, stay in your house, stay away from everyone. Now, hey, get behind these masks. So now all of a sudden it's hard to breathe, I would argue, like a normal human being trying to downregulate everything, and now all of a sudden we wear a mask. I would think it just screw up, nervous system stuff. And now all of a sudden you're even on a higher I don't know. Again, I'd be curious what Brian says to this, or other like breathwork specialists, because I don't know how you do it behind a mask without driving, anxiety and stuff even higher than what it already is. And then if you do get sick, now you're less equipped to handle this virus. And yeah, I don't know. I'm frustrated kind of with the whole situation.
Yeah,
a lot frustrated.
The last podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so frustrated. The last podcast I recorded just before this one was for a different podcast, but the guy had just spent over 2 weeks in the hospital. When he checked into the hospital from COVID, very healthy man. He checked into 50% oxygen, whatever that rate is that you're like death. Like the reason he was okay at that point is because he was healthy coming in. And he did everything right, and he got COVID, and it beat him up, and he has a hard time walking a mile right now. And he's a healthy person. But we both agreed that what's happening is people are living in fear. Yeah. And I'm like, man, if I approach this with the statistics of driving my car places,
yeah,
I would be so anxious everywhere I went. It's called calculated risk.
Yeah.
If I was the same way with the flu, which by the way, the flu's never going to go away because it lives in animals as well. So therefore to get rid of it is almost impossible, and it changes. Guess what? COVID's the same way. It's never going away. It's the new flu. And I'm thinking, okay, if we respond in wearing masks and forcing our kids to wear masks, this is really where it's more of the kids. Like I know that for adults, it's not good. I'm just going with kids. But if we force the kids to do this, if we don't stop this now, we are in the biggest trouble of the next generation, than more than we can even imagine, because of the psychological, sociological, and developmental issues that are going to come with this. Not to mention the bacteria and stuff that they're breathing in and over and over and over again. And so, boy, we got political, I guess, but this is, again, I don't think it's politics. I think it's health. I think this is, so anyway, the whole point is he got really, really ill. I thought I got hit hard. I mean, after hearing his story, I'm like, well, I just walk in the park, but I was bedridden for 5 days, and it was 2 months. I coughed and had a very hard time breathing. And his son, I think 16, a day not feeling good. My son, 17, a day not feeling good. Both had COVID. Like, it's just not the same for kids.
Yeah. I think both my kids, we didn't get them tested, but I got it back in October. And it hit me a little bit. It actually hit me harder than did my wife. We're just assuming that she got it because she has the antibodies, because we give blood and that it came up positive. But yeah, the boys were off for like, a day maybe or so. Like, and it wasn't terrible. They weren't dying or anything like that. They were just irritable, as children will get at times. So yeah, I don't know, Scott. I think the whole thing, at least for me, has, I guess, empowered me, or at least made me more aware that I am so in charge of my family, and that responsibility now weighs heavier on me than it did before. It's more like, oh, I'll take the kids to school and they'll learn to read by, with Mrs. Fitzgerald, and it will be great. Da, 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 da. And now, like, nothing, I don't trust people, but it's like, I think the role that Heather and I have adopted is that we are in charge of our kids in every realm. And not saying that you shouldn't trust other people to do other things or anything like that, but that's one thing I've been very, I guess, proud of what we've been able to work out. And I could not do it without her. Like, her planning, what she does, holy cow, I just be shooting from the hip. And
that's an incredible benefit. I do want to rewind, and I want to move where you're going, but I want to rewind for a second, because I probably sounded very inconsiderate, because I will say I know some people that are immune compromised, or their kids are immune compromised.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Totally different story. Like, if Absolutely. My kids are going to be around them, wear a freaking mask. Yep. If it's not going to share something, I don't care. It's still a respect thing. So I really want to weigh that out. Like, there's, like, I had a guest on the podcast the other day, heart transplant and double lung transplant. And he's like, for me, it's kind of a big deal. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. So this is not a disrespect for people choosing to do that.
Oh,
I just think it needs to be a choice.
And then 100% agree.
Yeah. And then controlling the environment. But I want to get back to really what we want to talk about is, being the one in charge, being the one responsible for your kid, because I think that's just so noble.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's, it's been fun and then kind of empowering too, to be able to see the growth that they've had and know that like you're a direct cause of that. I don't know. I used to not trust more. I don't know. I used to have more faith, I guess. And I'm going to go with education. Like people ask me, Adam, do you miss teaching? And I want to say yes, because my entire life was education. Like obviously that was my undergrad. That was my master's degree. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. My sister's a teacher. Uncles are teachers. Like we were teaching family. Like we love, to not make much money, but at least have a decent pension and be okay. Like that's fine for the Lane family. Married a teacher. I don't know. My mother-in-law is a teacher, so it just it was I know, Scott, it's bad. But nobody. Oh, Adam, you're getting out. Congratulations! Like they were excited. So I don't know. It's frustrating that just this the whole system is not aligned the way I would want it to be. But cool in the sense of like I don't know. I feel like this is what my role needs to be, what my wife's role needs to be in this day and age to make sure that we, help our children grow up to be productive members of society. Because I just don't think the public system is, I don't want to say it's not doing it, but I'm in charge of my kids is all I'm saying. Then
I think that's the main, that's the main message is like,
yes.
And
not throwing shade towards any, any realm.
Well, I'll throw shade. There was my son in middle school. There was a teacher last year that actually got removed. We got the yearbook at the end of the year, and it had stickers on it. That was the design on the outside.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there were stickers, about things that had happened the year. Yoda in a mask, but then there was the most prominent stickers were, and I don't care what you think about this, but I want you to think about it from a very level mind. There were no stickers saying vote. There were no, because it was an election year. There were no stickers saying, support each other. It was literally a very biased against our past president sticker. There was a Black Lives Matter sticker, which they do matter, but I don't believe in the capital BLM. I believe in right? Like I think everyone's life matters. I'm going to stake my flag in the ground there. And they were one side hardcore political and moral statements.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And they were one-sided hardcore. And I mean, you talk about a community about to just go rip heads off. Right. And then of course the principal's like, I didn't see anything wrong with it. And of course they had to redo all of them. But
in Texas, no.
Oh yeah. And the week before this teacher is handing out Black Lives Matter stickers to kids. Here's the whole point is it's starting to become more of there's a lot of more of moral and political things really being driven by certain teachers, and it's off the rails. And then there's some legislation or something about some of the curriculum coming in that really is almost racist.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's racist. And because we've made so many mistakes, who's going to argue with that? Yeah. I mean, but man, to go well, we're going to get you back now. And they're looking at putting these things in schools. That's where I just draw the line. I'm like, look, I should be the one teaching my kids moral standards. The same as someone who believes complete opposite of me. That should be coming from the home, not from the school.
Yeah. I don't want to say took it for granted. I did not understand, I guess, when I was a young teacher, pre-kids, I guess before we had kids, I guess, how big of an influence the teacher can be. I had the best principal when I first started. The first 9 years, it was fantastic. Harry Grease is former Army Ranger and just a tough nut. But I think it was like my second year teaching. My honors class was my home base class. And so one of the girls, came up, and for her church, they were doing some type of it was like a 24-hour fast. and they're raising money towards something. I'm like, Mackie, that's awesome, kiddo. I'm like, a 24-hour fast, it's something that's hard, something that's tough. You're raising money for a really good cause. Like, I think we should do this as a class. This would be great. And I just said that out loud. I didn't follow up on anything. But the principal came down to my room the next day. He's like, Adam, this is the phone call I got. You can't do this. Close the door. Walked out. Like, and I'm like, what did I do? I don't know what I did. And now, just in hindsight, going like, oh, like the power that you have.
Absolutely.
It is just, I mean, I don't want to say you're just a teacher, and is what, and there are thousands of teachers, there's so many, but to abuse that power is very wrong. And the sad thing is that there's so many kids that don't have that solid home life that those teachers become almost, parent figures.
Oh yeah.
And that's insanely unfortunate. But when they try to parent and it doesn't align with what the parent wants, that's where I have a really big issue, because now you can't even go into anybody's classroom. You're not even allowed to go into the school. It's all of this COVID stuff. Mm. Well, this is a bad news, because now, and then before that, there was safety things. And so just getting into the classroom is like, Fort Knox. It's just not going to happen. An adult with kids behind closed doors, other teachers are teaching. Very rarely is there anybody monitoring what's going on. And I trust a lot of teachers, and I love a lot of teachers, and there's a lot in the family. Yeah. But I do not believe that anybody outside of parents, kids should not be behind closed doors, inaccessible to you with another adult. I do not care. Yeah, the situation is that they're saying you cannot see inside of this room. You will not see inside of this room. You have no clue what's going on. It's for the protection of the kids or whatever. And I'm like, BS. Like, put a camera up, a live cam up there. There has got to be some sort of like system in place where they're being monitored, not because I don't trust them, but because just like when I was a teacher, I would do some stupid things because I just wasn't thinking of the bigger picture. Yeah. And I think of myself and I'm like, what would that have done for me? I would have hated it, but I also would have been a much, much better teacher. Yeah. Because somebody's watching all the time. And I know it sounds horrible and I would have hated it. I would have felt so demeaned, but I'm like, wait, almost every profession we do right now that has to do with other people is being watched. And here we are, we're closing the doors, we're closing the windows, we're closing that world. And we're saying, just trust the person in there. Yeah. And people are people. Yeah. Well, I just remember how I was on, observation day. That's where Mr. Lane was even more put together and, and then when it was over, not that I slacked off with it. It was I could breathe a little bit and, just if I don't know, this is terrible, Scott. I'm going to reveal this to you. No one knows this, but there were 4 years where I owned a gym and was working full time. So not that I ever disappeared behind my desk in which to answer a couple gym emails and then come right back up and can finish my fraction unit, but that might have happened once or twice.
Right. The worst teachers are entrepreneurs. I had a bike shop that I was running full-time staff. Same thing. It's like I got 500. I got 5 emails that are important. Get to work. Yeah. And hey, look, you're behind closed doors. It's
Logan, you done with that test yet? No, keep going. Take your time.
Yeah. Shame on the new technology, boy. You look into teachers' room. I'll ask my son. I'm like, so you can't stand this teacher. Like, why? He's like, she's on her phone all day.
Yeah,
she's on her phone. Like, look, I'm not villainizing all teachers. There are phenomenal teachers out there, but it only takes 1 or 2 for the trust to be broken. Yeah. So what's the plan, man? You're homeschooling. You guys are very blessed. Your wife is doing lesson plans. Not everybody has this ability, but I do want to make a very strong point. There are so many homeschool and self-taught programs and co-ops right now where you don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
And socialization programs. But so what's the plan? I mean, you're in year 2 of it now.
Yeah. My wife she's jealous because I get to do the teaching piece, which is more the fun piece, where she's, behind the scenes, so we actually started this week teaching. So she's doing the intro first week. And and then actually she doesn't have school on Monday, so she's going to teach them Monday. And then I start with them Tuesday, and we're just going to hit the ground running. And really the schedule ends up being Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday school from about 8 to 11 or noonish. Wednesday, there's an outdoor education class, if you will, at the through the local YMCA, where literally they're just outside doing outsidey things. They build things. Look at it's fantastic. Very well staffed. Very educational. My kids love it. They know everybody. They're giving high fives to people. They're calling people by their first name. That's where the socialization piece really comes in. And then actually we run a homeschool PE class here at the gym.
Of course you do. I did that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, and these kids, they'll come in and so much. Our director of operations, Coach Matt, has a PE degree, so his bachelor's in phys ed, and then so he writes the curriculum, and it's obviously more than just dodgeball and stuff, but it's that team building stuff and that communication piece, and not that this would surprise you, but kids struggle with communication, and I know the teamwork stuff. Homeschool kids struggle with communication. Let's be clear, all kids struggle with communication. It's not something that's on the up and up, but it's so. I mean, they get that twice a week, and then we'll try to. My kids are, they like being. I like them being active, so we'll get out to a playground, or the local trampoline park has like a homeschool jump day, and we'll go out there and they'll jump for an hour and a half, and then we'll just run through the sports through the year. There's soccer in the fall and wrestling in the winter. And we wanted to go into baseball. They've tried some baseball in the past in the spring, but my oldest is telling me that he wants to do lacrosse. So we'll see what that looks like.
I love this. I just love it. I think there's just so much, education as a whole has this. And again, I'm just going to say there's teachers who do a phenomenal job, but there is this box. Here's this box, and everybody's got to fit in it. And guess what? We lose anybody that doesn't sit inside that box. And I interview a lot of entrepreneurs. It's another podcast to do. And I will tell you, most of them had massive issues in school. Most of them were always in trouble, ended up doing drugs, ended up getting kicked out of school because they did not fit in the box. And I love that with homeschooling, I want to do this sport, or let's just go outside. And not only that, 4 hours is way more than enough to get all the work done.
Oh yeah.
Accelerated learning.
Breaks in there. Let's be clear. Lots of breaks.
Well, they have to, because they're sitting in a chair confined, following rules that make sense, but don't make sense. And then quite frankly, the teacher is having to spend most of the time just trying to direct the kids that don't fit in their box. It's such a screwed up system. And I hate to say that out loud, but it's just the way I feel very strongly about it. And my kids are in it, and they're building resilience, and they're building patience. And could they have learned faster and better? Yes. But it is what it is. So I'm not condemning public school. My kids are in it.
Yeah.
I just know it could be a million times better. So I've always been curious to really just talk to somebody who did homeschooling and really what the mindset was. So for someone that wants to do homeschooling, I mean, what are some tips that you would give just, your year and a little bit in?
Yeah. I think find people that have done it before. We're in a, little Facebook group, the local Rockford homeschoolers or whatever it is. And ideas are thrown out all over the place. People, hey, I'm looking for a math curriculum for a third grader. And then, within 2 hours, you have 30 different options, to hit. So if you're able to find, those people and just, figure out what works or what doesn't work, or there are some people that love the co-op thing and do a ton of it and rely on it. There's one that's through our church. The bad news is it's just too time consuming on our end, because I'm trying to work a little bit during the day too, specifically in the afternoon after the kids get done with the schooling piece. So we try to maximize the at-home time, but then make up with it with the all the other things that the kids do for the socialization piece. So but if they're able to just to find people that know what they're doing, and to know that it I don't know, you'll just get better at it. I was so much better at the end of the year than I was at the beginning of the year. Just we tried to find our groove, and do we eat breakfast and then do we homeschool, or do we homeschool and then eat breakfast and routines. Then eat your breakfast so we can get to math, and just No, that's not why we're here. Okay.
It's not a smooth sailing road.
And it changes, there's, sometimes my youngest needs multiple breaks, more breaks than ever. Go play more Legos. But I just played Legos. I don't care. Go play more Legos,
right. Right.
I'll get back to you.
Right on. So let's wrap up with something you and I love. We started talking about on the podcast previous that people will have learned when I was a guest. But you read a book called The Comfort Challenge, I believe. No, what was it? Yeah, Comfort Challenge?
No, what was it?
No,
Comfort Crisis?
Comfort Crisis. I knew it was with C, which is a much better and so if anybody listens to my podcast or has watched any of the content or seen my comments, I believe so much in doing hard things. And so you're stepping into this. I don't know how long you've been into it, but what's going on, man?
Yeah, no, I think I've always enjoyed doing kind of pushing my body to different things. So like I did triathlons back in the day. So after my senior year of football, I started running, lost a bunch of weight, because I was an offensive lineman on a very average football team. So that doesn't really translate to anything. Started running, lost some weight. Started swimming in college because the Iowa State pool is right across from my dorm. So I'm like, hey, this sounds like a healthy thing to do. And a buddy of mine from high school who swam Division I at Denver over then that Christmas break actually taught me how to swim. And then anybody can ride a bike. So I started riding a bike and, competitively and got really heavy, hot and heavy into the triathlon thing. Oh, wow. And just kind of then progressed. And my only claim to fame, Scott, my only athletic achievement in this world is that I was the 1999 Midwest Junior Regional Long Course Champion. So I won the long course race for the juniors that year. Not everyone. There were people that beat me. They're just older. But it was just fun, to know that I'm going to compete in this half Ironman and it's going to take me, 5-ish, hours, give or take here, and then I ended up doing an Ironman, and it was always like, you kind of had to be crazy in which to train for something like that. And then I had kids and then things slowed down. I don't have time for, 8-hour bike rides anymore and stuff like that. So, reading this book just kind of opened it up like, hey, you should do hard things. It should be part of kind of who you are. It almost kind of gave me permission, to keep that up, because I get too, I love podcasting. The thing I hate about podcasting is I sit, and just I'm not moving as much as I should, and desk work and computer stuff. And my youngest actually told my wife the other day, because she's like, hey, do you want, what do you want to be when you grow up? Blah, blah, doing this. Hey, do you want to own the gym? And he's like, no, Dad does too much. What do you call it? Too much typing. Nobody coaching and the kids and the adults and the lifting weights. No, too much typing. That's what owning a gym takes. So I don't know. It was neat to read that book and really like get the whole thing. So I don't know. So now I'm just doing, I don't say crazy things, but things that I don't necessarily care if they're socially awkward. My boys had soccer games last night. And so I wore my 40-pound weight vest out to the soccer game. And I walked around, for an hour and a half with a 40-pound weight vest on, which I don't know if people actually knew what was on me. I got some weird looks. I didn't really care. But like when I got done and took that sucker off after an hour and a half, like my shoulders are all,
it's hard.
I just felt good. So I don't know. I'm just doing more, more, I don't say hard stuff, but whether it be the cold tub, my little freezer in the basement, or cold showers, or I don't know, whatever it is. I really like the book. I recommend people read it and check it out. And not saying you have to never wear shoes and never bathe again. I don't know. It was a nice eye-opening thing. And I just feel like I've just been better since I don't know.
Yeah.
Accepted this. Like, it's okay to be a little weird and crazy, So if I go walk with my wife, I'll grab a 20-pound dumbbell and I'll just switch hands, as I'm walking for not long, my little mile walk. But I'm now getting a little low back training and oblique training, summer reps, and go from there.
Hey, if you want to understand, I did this once when I was a little overweight. I'm like, I feel like I'm like 15 pounds overweight. I probably still have 10 or 15 pounds. I don't really like going with the weight because muscle mass weighs so much more. So I'm trying not to pay attention to that because I'm building muscle mass. But I decided I would go to Target and grab a kettlebell, or I didn't know what they're going to have. I'm just like, I'll grab something. I'm going to walk around with it for 20 minutes. And so I did. This is pre-owning the gym. And I did. And it sucked. And I'm like, that's how much extra weight I walk around with every day without, that's the equivalent. If I lost 20 pounds, how much better would I feel all day? So there's something about discomfort that pushes you into better, bigger, greater things. Plus, like, hey, flash news alert for everyone here. This isn't CNN. This is unbiased. Life sucks. It's hard. Yeah. Embrace it. Learn to embrace it. Learn to enjoy it, and life will be way better. Yeah. So I'm begrudgingly doing cold showers now, and it's something I've tried before and I hated. And I'm like, I hate it because it's uncomfortable. Okay, well, that's just a really stupid reason not to do it, because there's so many health benefits. So
I think there's a huge mental thing too. Like, to do that thing that you hate, and then to get done with it and be like, I did it, there it is. And then check it off your list. I mean, you don't need to. Now, if you really want to embrace it, you have to, Instagram it and make sure it gets out to all your people. But, if you just want to, you could just do it too, and not shoot it out to the world, and just feel good about, hey, I accomplished, this thing, whether it be, I saw Rogan got a cold tub, and did almost died the first time he did it, and then eventually did 20 minutes. And good for him type of thing. And then I'm looking at him going, Joe, I've been going 45 minutes for a year now, you step it up. So, you just kind of feel good about yourself with just little goofy, stupid things like holding yourself in a freezer. How stupid is that? Going for walks with weight vests, or again, however you can make your life, a little challenging in any way, shape, or form. And again, just a little, not stuff that you fail at, like just, and Scott, you're fantastic at this, at creating these habits that build over time, and, so you don't want a habit that you fail at, you want something that you do and you do every day, and you're successful with it. So I think there's a huge mental piece, because I don't know, I think I've just been a happier person since I've, read this book and gotten a little more weird.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it's good to be weird.
Not cared. I'm 41. Who cares?
Yeah. I could say I'm not caring, but I'm thinking through, like, I'm sure somebody's offended by some of the content we've talked about. And I'm like, I really don't need to care. I need to be okay with discomfort. You got to equate it back into other things, right? Like, I'm entitled to my opinion.
Yeah. And to have a conversation with those people like that. And that'd be fair.
Imagine that. Can I just get online and bash people right now, or tell them how I feel without any repercussion? I tell people, like, it's uncomfortable, and here's another uncomfortable thing.
Well, I think that's why I love podcasts. I think Facebook is fake. I think Instagram is fake. I don't really even understand what TikTok is, but podcast is like the one thing where, like, we can have this discourse. I talked it, and if I'm saying something that's a little off, you can stop me right there and be like, well, Adam, did you mean this, or did you mean this? And just
really gain understanding. That's the thing. It's like, it's uncomfortable to stand face to face with someone and have a conversation. But if somebody is really, really, really pro mask for kids in school, I want to hear why.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to have an open mind. I'm definitely probably going to be hard to convince, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is understanding where someone else is coming from. And if you have, here's what I'm going to say. And I've said this over and over. If you're offended by anything we said in this podcast, that's on 100% on you. You can take offense. I am not giving you offense. You're deciding to take it. So suck it.
Well, and I always think it's interesting too, just to see if they have a different stance on it. Like, what has facilitated this? Like, it just, I don't know, you see it with the villains in the superhero movies that they weren't typically born bad. Certain things happen to them. And, I'm looking at Marvel, movies right now as my reference there. But like, and it made them into this person because of all these things that happen. I see the same thing with other people that have different opinions on different things. And I'm fine with that. That's why Scott, that's why I love podcasting so much. You can really dig in deep into, where people are coming from, and come to an understanding. I might not totally agree, but at least I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, it's this, like I said before, the reason I wanted to talk to you about homeschooling is I wanted to have a better understanding of why, because in the past I've been totally against it. And so we have to have these conversations to be better, more empathetic with people, to be better humans, to increase our discomfort, acuity with discomfort. We need to be good at being uncomfortable. So, yeah, dude, I just love the conversations we have. They're fun. I hope someone else enjoys it. Well, who knows? Hey, if someone lives in Illinois, where are you?
Yeah, we're in Loves Park, which is a booming suburb of Rockford, Illinois, which is not funny if you don't know where we're at. But yeah, we're right north center of the state. We're about an hour south of Madison. We're about an hour west of Chicago. So, yeah, this nice little Rockford area community, 815 community. So,
well, I've been following your social media for a couple of years. I've known you for a few years. If I lived in your area, there's no doubt I'd come to your gym. So if anybody listening to this happens to be in the area or visiting, go check it out, because they have a lot of really cool things going on there. Adam, it's been absolutely fun hearing about doing hard things, hearing about homeschooling, talking about public education, and just being ourselves. Appreciate the time, man.
Scott, thank you so much. This is fun for me. I appreciate good conversation.
Me too.
Thank you for listening to the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, your family, and follow us on social media. If you are a father, make sure you join our Facebook group, the Brotherhood of Fatherhood. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more podcasts from the Brotherhood of Fatherhood.